Just wanted to check in with you this week as we work on our online activities and online discussions. The voice threads that have been posted so far look very good. We've had a couple of snags, but I think we've worked through them. I've never actually had students post their own voice threads, only comment on their own. So I'm learning with you guys on how to deal with this, because it's something that I would really like to incorporate in my classes in the future. Having students create their own media centered around the subject matter, as we're doing with VoiceThread. So I think it would be great to have the students do this, and my own experience helping all the participants in this group get theirs online kind of makes me anticipate what it might be like asking students to do this. I'm thinking that I would probably have them work in groups in something like this, so that they could help each other out, and they're just not on an island by themselves at home trying to figure out how to deal with VoiceThread. It is a little bit clunky, but it's an interesting concept, and one that I'm always looking to incorporate more of. Over just the traditional discussion forums, which brings me to the next point, the traditional discussion forum that we're having this week, which is obviously giving people a lot less trouble. We've got more people participating, a lot of information's being shared, which is fantastic. It's just a little bit more of a dry medium than something like VoiceThread. Finding some way to merge those two concepts of convenience and simplicity with a smooth interface, with something that has the ability to be more dynamic, it would really be the ideal solution. So I'll see if that solution ever presents itself. So on to the discussion. Like I said, it's been really great. I've read all the posts so far, and I really appreciate the level of participation and thought that you guys have been putting into this. It's been great reading everybody's responses. The very first kind of conversation that I read in this discussion forum was something that I touched upon the first week, which is, what if the students don't get it? Leah brought this up. Fran responded to it. So what if the students don't get it? You do have to, especially when you're teaching this the first time, and I would put this in my syllabus. The instructor reserves the right to change the course schedule as they see fit. And the reason why you should put something like that in there is because what if they don't get it, and it's just the whole class, you just really need to stop. We were going to be online next week, but we're not going to be. We have to meet because we really need to go over this, what you're not getting. Or if you teach something, both Leah and Janice they're obviously in the science and engineering field. That kind of content really relies on that. And I remember when we were discussing things in class, Leah had mentioned having review sessions built in to the course schedule in the hybrid format. So if you teach a discipline like that, that can be a great idea to build those things in there, to go back and reteach concepts that the students aren't quite getting. For me, I mentioned, and I've had to do this, is something like this, where I flip on the webcam and start talking about things from a different approach, and maybe I have to do that a couple of times in little snippets, just to kind of get the students steered onto the right track. So and pardon me, that's my email indicator going off, and I really don't feel like re-recording this. And since we're in an informal format, I'm just going to leave that in. I've had to do that with students, and I'll re-record this, but I don't feel like it. So moving on, Fran brought up the idea of too much information, and what if students start sharing more of themselves than they would? Is this a violation of privacy? It's been my experience that it's been a good thing, but this is all, it's not a brand new medium, but how we're interacting with this medium is new. And then that goes along with another point that was made, is face-to-face more dynamic? I posted something in the content tab right in the middle of all the course materials. It's a Frontline special called Digital Nation, I posted it there because I thought many would be interested, because it's something that we've been talking about not only in this section but in my own interactions with faculty here on campus about how students interact with multimedia. See, if you're interested in this stuff, see Chapter 4 or watch the whole thing. It's great to watch the whole thing. But it's all about teaching in the classroom using technology, and how the tradition, what people are saying is that the chalk and talk is just completely out. There are some instructors that still cling to it, but students are expecting to use the same technology that they interact with in their day-to-day life in their classroom experience, and that if we're not incorporating that kind of technology, we're doing them a disservice if you look at the element of education as preparation for the job market. I know that's certainly not the sole purpose of education, but it is a component. So please take a look at that if you have time. There's another one, going back to Fran's point about sharing too much of themselves. I'm going to post this in our class as well. It's another Frontline called Growing Up Online. I use both of them in my mass media course, and it's all about how students, how living a big portion of your life online is affecting this generation. And they do. They don't realize that just when you're putting things out there on the internet, you're letting people in. Maybe more so than you want. So I'm going to post that as well, just in case you're interested, because it certainly is a dynamic and a plank of the online learning environment, and it's a very interesting one. Another point that was brought up is, does your face-to-face teaching style carry over? I believe Solar brought this up, and if I'm wrong about that, I apologize. But is it necessarily true that the kind of instructor you are in the face-to-face environment is the type of instructor you're going to be in the online learning environment? I can tell you from my own personal experience that I feel like most of us, our teaching styles are constantly evolving anyway. But mine certainly has changed since teaching online and teaching hybrid, that I lecture far less as a result of my role in the online learning environment. I prefer to have that same kind of role in the face-to-face environment as well. I know I shared a story with at least one of the sections about how I assigned this reading and I wanted to spend the 3-hour class meeting discussing it, and the students didn't do it, and instead I had to basically spend the entire class period lecturing about what they should have read. And that was a disappointment for me, because I prefer to facilitate a discussion both online and when we meet face-to-face, rather than just lecturing. And someone else brought up the point that students, unfortunately, some students, they almost want to use the instructor as a crutch. And rely more on them for that transmission of knowledge, instead of letting the instructor be the facilitator. Ellen also brought up a good point about the hybrid format allowing for different learning styles, which I think is valid too. When you're transitioning back and forth, for example, like 1 week we're going to meet online, 1 week face-to-face, it kind of gives you that flexibility to appeal to all different learning styles. And I'll admit, it's something that I was a lot more conscious of, and I'm glad Ellen brought it up, because I was a lot more conscious of it when I was teaching face-to-face in K-12. So the first, we had all these short class periods on the first day of school. Like, you'd only meet with your class for like 20 minutes. So that first day for 20 minutes, what am I going to have them do for 20 minutes? I can't even go over my syllabus in 20 minutes. So I would have them do these little surveys and fill out, it's like, what a learning profile, like what kind of learner are you? And so I'd get an idea of my class and what the predominant learning style was, and I had them for the whole year, and I saw them every day. And so I would really change my approach. Like, for example, one class I had a whole bunch of athletes in my class, and they were all kinesthetic learners. They learned by manipulating things and by moving around. So I would incorporate those kinds of activities. All right, we're all going to move around. We're going to move our desks around. We're going to get in groups. I'll give them things that they're physically going to move around, like maybe terms and definitions, kind of like virtually how I did in the lesson last week, where you're matching things. So it was something I was conscious of, and I think sometimes at this level, I know at least I have. Sometimes I forget about appealing to the different kinds of learning styles, and it's really something that's important to do. So I'm really glad Ellen brought it up, and I really am looking forward to meeting with you again this last time this week and discussing these kinds of issues more in person. So once again, I really appreciate your level of commitment and your enthusiasm in this section.